You can probably argue over who the biggest male recording artist in the world is at the moment. Justin Bieber maybe, Drake, Kanye West. It's hard to argue though that Justin Timberlake isn't the most versatile. Not only has he sold millions of albums and won 9 Grammy Awards, he's also been lauded for his serious film roles such as The Social Network and his skit comedy work on television's Saturday Night Live. That's not enough for the multi-talented superstar though. He's recently overseen the soundtrack for a new animated film, Trolls, in which he also voices one of the lead characters. Justin Timberlake and I sat down together in Sydney this afternoon. Justin Timberlake, very nice to meet you.
You as well.
Ever since I saw the film Trolls, I have had an earworm of the song September, and then I got rid of it, and it was replaced by an earworm of Sexy Back. So people say you're a genius, but you are in fact an evil genius, aren't you?
Oh God. Whoa. No, that was sort of a bucket list moment for me. You brought up September. For the soundtrack specifically, in the end credits, we were able to have Earth, Wind, and their friend Fire. No, we were actually able to have the band come back to the studio and recut the song.
I loved how the film had so many great 70s and 80s songs getting the Timberlake treatment. What inspired you to do that?
The Timberlake treatment. That sounds like an ointment.
I've got a really bad rash. What would you recommend?
The Timberlake treatment. Oh gosh. Sorry, there was a question in there, sorry.
There was somewhere. What inspired you to sort of go in that direction with the 70s and 80s stuff?
Well, when I came onto the movie, they had already cleared certain songs. And the sort of DNA of the movie started to become, well, we're kind of doing these sort of spins on, these reworkings on these like classic big pop tunes. And so, I don't know, that became like part of the movie. Because working on the music, you get to see more of the animation as they're working on it. And I said, man, I feel like I'm actually tripping when I'm watching this. Like, it feels very 70s. And simultaneously, it was like, well, whatever that song is that we have to write for that big moment in the movie, let's make it feel disco. And that was the only real grounds I really had for starting to write Can't Stop the Feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. Stop the feeling, yeah. So keep dancing. And then we started talking about movies where the soundtrack was so sort of like, the other half of the brain of that film, and Saturday Night Fever and Grease, movies like that, where this and we started researching that the soundtrack actually was released before those movies. Saturday Night Fever was a collection of a bunch of Bee Gees songs.
Can you imagine the day when the Bee Gees were sitting around working on music and someone's come up with that riff for Staying Alive?
Oh yeah.
I mean, good day at work, huh?
Yeah, that's a classic riff.
How do you know when you're working on it?
I wonder if they knew, like...
I was just going to ask you exactly that.
I wonder if they knew that would just, Because it's literally, we could just right now, I could say, Staying Alive, and you would go... Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know yourself, like say when you're working on a song and you hit on a riff, do you just know, yep, that's it, we've got it?
No. Not... Well, the thing is, I mean... When you're making a song in the studio, of course you're like, this is awesome, and then you listen to it the next day and you're like, maybe not as awesome as I thought. But I think for me personally, I find that my friends are usually pretty honest. Even if they're not telling me what they think, I can tell if they're not dancing or they're not moving or they're not responding to it.
With Trolls, it's the first time that you've overseen a film soundtrack. When I looked back over your career, it seems like a lot of your career you have always made choices that push yourself out of your comfort zone. Is that a hard space to be in all the time?
No. I think complacency is like the death of artistry. And I also find that like trying to make something perfect perfection is the death of greatness. And being an artist, those things are no-nos. I like to use the word carbonation. You know, if it feels like it's just bubbling and it has to like pop, you know, and get out of you, that's how songwriting should always be.
Once you're out of your comfort zone, though, the risk of failure is heightened because you're doing stuff you haven't done before. Do you get scared of that?
That's the best place to be. You can't be afraid to fail. And you do fail. I think that you redefine what success and failure actually mean.
I'm bringing sexy back. Yeah. The mother boys don't know how to act. Yeah. I think it's special what's behind your back. Yeah. So turn around and I'll pick up the slack. Yeah.
Even though you're young, you've been in the business for a really long time, you know, 25 or so years, right?
Yeah.
What has having been around that long taught you about how to conduct yourself?
I think my relationship with my career as time has gone by has really become more just that, and realizing that, because I think I had a bit of a tough time. I still, sometimes you have a bit of a tough time, if I'm being really honest, feeling like it doesn't belong to you, that it belongs to everybody else. So is this whole thing subservient to everyone else, and are you left out? That's it, that's all you can do, you know, you can't please everybody. So you have to please yourself. And now, you know, I have a little person and an amazing wife to look after, and I think that sort of, that just negates all the noise. It quiets all the noise.
Well, you bring a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. You know, to be honest, artists, we write music to connect too. You know, so we get, I find that I'm getting more and more connection out of it to as well. So I think I feel really grateful for that.
Well, it's a good place to be, obviously, where
Thanks.
you are now.
Thanks. I'm sure I'll have a nervous breakdown next week.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And then I'll be like, oh, he didn't tell me about the drug and the alcohol problem. Thanks for the scoop, Justin.
Yeah. I don't have a drinking problem. I have a stopping problem.
Justin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.